Well, it took a long time coming now, didn't it? I did say on YouTube that we would indeed finish off all of the trade candidates that Ted Kulfan talks about in his article on the Detroit News, talking about different players the Red Wings could trade for, and this is the last video in that mini-series. So far, we've covered Andreas, Johnsson, and Kasperi Kapanen from the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've talked about Matt Murray and Tristan Jarry from the Penguins. We also talked about Jake Allen and Jaden Schwartz from the St. Louis Blues, and today we're wrapping up with the Tampa Bay Lightning folk that Kulfan talks about here. So, what exactly is this article? Well, the title explains it itself. Possible trade targets for the Red Wings who have the money to be buyers. This is an article going over players from different teams that have built their salary cap structures to that of danger, to that of uncertainty, and to that of necessity. Necessity being the ability to free up money in this case. This article pretty much goes over the teams that the Red Wings could take advantage of because, hey, those teams need to free up money. They've got a lot of expensive players. As a result, the Red Wings, who have a lot of money to spend, can kind of swoop in there, maybe get themselves a deal, and improve their hockey team in the process here. That's kind of what Ted Kulfan is suggesting. But onto the certain Lightning players that Kulfan suggests the Red Wings could go after, we have ourselves three right here. It is Tyler Johnsson, Yanni Gourde, and Alex Killorn. Let's go over what Kulfan says about these three individual players, starting with Tyler Johnsson. Johnsson has a cap hit of $5 million over the next 4 seasons, and his stats have dropped over the last 3 seasons. This past season, he had 14 goals and 31 points in 65 games played. But general manager Steve Yzerman is familiar with Johnsson from his days in Tampa, and at 29, Johnsson would strengthen the Wings lineup. Now, to be fair, Steve Yzerman is familiar with all these guys. Let's just get that out of the way here. Johnsson is the second most expensive guy that we're going to be talking about today. He has a contract going until 2024. And as a guy who did formerly put up 72 points 5 years ago, all the way back when he was 25, I would think it's fair to say that there was a lot more hype around Tyler Johnsson back then than there is today. However, that does not discredit the fact that he is a consistent 30, 40, sometimes mostly actually 50-point scorer, and he has had that consistency throughout his career. Obviously, he was better before, it's just nowadays he's still somewhat okay. But the Lightning are in a position where they need to re-sign Mikhail Sergachev, they need to re-sign Anthony Chiarelli, and they have so many other UFAs that they gotta touch up on too. Kevin Shattenkirk, Jan Rutta, Zach Bogosian, Luke Schenn, Eric Cernak, not to mention that they have $1.2 million in cap space right now, and they have a projected $5-something million cap space for next season. It's why these kinds of trade discussions are happening. But on the Red Wings' point of view, Tyler Johnsson is a very capable all-round forward. And I say forward because he can play center, he can play right wing, and he can play left wing. There's a very good versatility to Tyler Johnson's game. And his lowered performance this past season could see him as a more expendable piece for the Tampa Bay Lightning in general. However, that point production is kinda scary, especially with the fact that he is already 30 and that he does have 4 more years on his contract, and he hasn't really had a season as poor as the most previous one ever in the NHL, except for his 14-game stint in 2013 where he had 6 points. I don't really think that counts. He did indeed, though, have a similar point production in 2015-16, the year after he potted up 72 points. That was the year where he had 38 points in 69 games, but in the postseason, he was a very good point-per-game player there. So he kind of redeemed himself afterwards, but there's still a discussion to be had. On to the next set of forwards on the Tampa Bay Lightning system. It's Yanni Gourde. This here is what Kulfan says about the Quebec-born player. With a cap hit of $5.16 million for the next 5 seasons, Gourde's 6-year, $31 million deal seemed generous as soon as it was signed, and it now haunts the Lightning. Gourde slumped from 25 and 22 goals and 18-19 respectively to 10 this season. He might actually thrive with a bigger role on a team like the Wings. And that, my friends, is even more scary than what we thought about with Tyler Johnsson. Yanni Gourde has the longest and the most expensive contract out of the three guys we're talking about here today, and Kulfan writes it best. He is a guy who has dipped from 64 points to 48 points to 30 points this most recent year, a consistent 20-goal guy who turned into a 10-goal guy, and he's 28 years old, so his contract will take him up until he's 33 years old, and every Tampa Bay Lightning fan has kind of come to terms with the fact that either Tyler Johnsson, whom we've already discussed about, or Yanni Gourde are probably going to get themselves taken by the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft, but if the Red Wings wanted to try their odds on a Yanni Gourde and see how he fits with a Detroit forward system, then I don't know, man. I don't know. Honestly, out of the three guys we're going to be talking about here today, I think Yanni Gourde is the least desirable in my opinion, just because the money and the years really do put a dent in how I think of this situation. Sure, it's only one extra year than Johnsson, and sure, it's only $100K more than Johnsson, but at the same time, we don't know where this team is going to be 5 years from now. 5 years from now, we may have really difficult problems when it comes to managing short-term deals and bridge deals with some of the young guys that eventually become entry-level to RFA guys or potential UFAs even too. There's a lot to be desired in the future with all the growth and development, and any small piece of cap relief could be the saving grace and the difference between re-signing a guy like, I don't know, Dylan Larkin or whatever, or letting him go. The Red Wings do not have anybody under contract until after 2023, and the only two guys they have signed until 2023 are Abdelkader, whose contract is bad, and Dylan Larkin. So any contracts going beyond that, in my opinion, really are kind of messing with the idea of the consistency that the Red Wings are trying to build with their lineup, and as a result is kind of the most undesirable situation out of the three presented in this video. Now, obviously, the Red Wings have so many RFAs that are going to have to re-sign this season, and the likelihood that none of them go a little bit past 2, 3, 4, 5 years is somewhat unlikely, but we'll see. And the third guy that Kulfan talks about in his article here is Alex Killorn. With 3 more years at $4.45 million, Killorn scored a career-best 26 goals this season. But at age 30, how much better will Killorn get? The Lightning need the cap cushion to sign several important RFAs. Now, this is, on paper, the best player out of the three and the best value. Least amount of term, least amount of cap hit, and the production hadn't actually slowed down. In fact, it increased. He had a career year this year with the Lightning, getting 26 goals and 23 assists. And as a guy who did that in 68 games, you start to wonder, hey, what could this guy achieve in 82 games? Imagine if he was on the Red Wings doing that. Now, obviously, playing on the Lightning and playing on the Red Wings are two different things. All these guys, if they were traded to Detroit at some point, I have no doubt that they all would probably see a little bit of a dip in production. But the fact is, all these players are capable NHL point producers. Some a little bit hotter than others, some with a lot more history at being hotter than others, but Killorn to me is probably the wild card because he played so well this season compared to what he has done before that I saw many Lightnings fans throughout the year debating on whether or not Killorn should even be the guy to be traded. It's always been Gourde and Johnsson as the two guys that many Lightnings fans have been saying should be traded, and to me Killorn just doesn't fall into that same category in terms of just the overall fan perception of the idea. Now, does that dismiss the idea that Killorn could or would be traded? No, absolutely not. It's just, compared to everything that I've seen, I've been seeing more Lightning fans saying, trade Johnsson, trade Gourde, expansion draft, Seattle, etc., less than I've been seeing that of Killorn. And as a result, the way he's been playing, the fact that his contract is the cheapest out of these guys, it makes me think that he's probably the one that the Lightning would want to keep the most out of these three, but again, there certainly is something to be desired when you have so many RFAs to sign back onto your team anyway. So, in my opinion, when it comes to desirability, if I were to trade for any of these three guys, if I was the Detroit general manager, I'd want to go after Killorn, Johnsson, and then Gourde in that order. I know the Red Wings have the money, but Gourde's contract is objectively the worst one here, and it goes on for the longest amount of time. And he also dipped the most in production, so it doesn't really make sense to me why Gourde would be number one on the priority list. Johnsson's been okay, and Alex Killorn has been pretty okay too. And when it comes to return, the Red Wings have so many picks and prospects that you could just jumble up a package of all that stuff, and I think it would be sufficeable to say the least. So tell me what you think in the comment section below about this idea. Should the Red Wings try to go after a Lightning trade for any one of these three forwards? I'll leave a link in the description to the Ted Kulfan article. We've been referencing this in several videos throughout the past few weeks, so I highly recommend you read it and check it out. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that's Schwartz 99, and bye.